Hi there. Fundamental to Feldenkrais is the idea of not being too dogmatic. Uh, what we're looking for is to make it clearer and clearer what you do, what we do, what you do that improves the number of options you see in front of you, to expand your choices. A classic Feldenkrais adage was that if you can only do something the same way every time, then you're like a robot, like a machine. And the way I remember being told this is that if you then have a choice, you can do something one way or another way. Once you've got a choice, then what you have are options, and you're moving into a more human kind of state. But recently I've heard a version of this that suggests actually when you've got two, you've got a dilemma, one or the other, one or the other. And that's probably quite easy to map onto our experience with a bit of attention. Well, I remember him saying, or somebody telling me that he said, because I never met him live, I saw him on recordings, and I spent a lot of time with people who spent a lot of time with him, that if you could do something 6 different ways, you were a genius. So if you're going to use this method to enhance the learning of a skill, so Feldenkrais at its fundamental level is about learning to be a more effective version of the human you are. But if that effective human is going to learn to sing, then there's going to be something a little more formulaic in the process. There's got to be a certain amount of repetition with the intention of improvement. This is not what happens when when we come online as very small infants with all our learning skills in full operational mode. Mostly what we do is we explore and we play and we discover. And it's only after that's been going on for a while that anyone sort of attempts to get us to learn something on purpose. And then it's often in a quite low intensity situation, like somebody saying, could you say mama? Could you say mama? Could you say papa? Could you say dada? Little encouraging repetitions that are intended to, filter in, sink into the baby's brain. So the baby starts to make the connection. Yeah? But if you're going to sing, you're making a different kind of connection. You're making a connection with the musical side of you. You're making a connection, I would say, even when you're on your own, when you switch from a kind of happy noise making, which some kind of singing really is a happy noise making, and it's not therefore that different from, say, whistling something as you go around. Whistling, when it becomes a performance, becomes something much more intense, much more spectacular, actually, if we think about famous whistlers, which there aren't a lot, and names are not going to pop in my head, but I can easily add links below should anyone be interested. So yes, so the learning process in terms of singing, I am trying to do two things that are almost they're complementary, definitely, but they're almost at odds with each other, which is that you get better at a particular thing, but at the same time, it becomes less habitual, less robotic, more sophisticated, more complex, more spontaneous. So, you learn, when you're learning a song, you learn that song in a different way if you set out to learn it from beginning to end than the way you learn it if you just pick it up because it's on in the background. You buy an album from a favourite performer and you listen to that album a lot, and at the end of it you know some of the songs, and you may know only about 95% of the words or something. You may not have completely pinned it down, but if you, as I did, you start to do things like singing at somebody's wedding, they'll have a song request sometimes to dance to that the band doesn't know, and then we've got to set out to learn it in what's often a relatively short space of time, and then you set down doggedly to get that song into your brain. That's a different kind of learning. And those songs don't stick as well as the old ones that just wormed their way into my brain. There's a wonderful song by Joan Armatrading that I cannot break down into verses. I learnt it was played on the radio over and over again. I am not in love, but I'm open to persuasion. Because that was on the radio a lot, and I listened to the radio a lot, and I thought it was beautiful, so I listened to it with a lot of attention. I learnt the song like a chunk, from beginning to end. Can't start in the middle, can't tell you when the second verse begins. I could sit and write it out, but I've never needed to, because it's right there in my brain as a whole piece in a stored situation. Whereas, I'm trying to think of some songs I had to make myself learn. You see, the songs I made myself learn, I haven't kept them really. I haven't continued to store them once the wedding dance was over and the couple were happily bopping away to our usual repertoire. Sometimes I never had to sing that song again, and I happily put it to one side. Anyway, yeah, I'm wittering. So the idea here, hopefully, is to start to make some sense of what goes into becoming a singer, what goes into having a sense of what you need to do to move to the next stage that you want to be at, whatever that stage is, whether it's enjoying listening to your own voice a little more, or whether it is beginning to want to be able to produce your voice in an enjoyable way, in a comfortable way, in the company of other people. It starts to be closer to performance, but there are all kinds of situations where it's still not performance. It's not really very performy when you're in a choir, particularly as most of being in a choir is practicing together and enjoying that. And when a choir comes and stands in front of an audience as a nice big gang, you're quite safe because you're surrounded by your pals and you're not exposed. So yes, I'm keen to demystify all the different ways in which you can be a singer, all the different ways in which you can enjoy your voice and get pleasure out of singing. And I'm very happy to be teaching people who are just interested in the sonic quality of the voice. So they'd like to speak more clearly, or, the process of chanting, which is very therapeutic, if they would like to enhance their ability to chant. And I have one good friend who teaches martial arts, and, she teaches people to shout with power as part of their self-defense strategy, to be, verbally present in such a way that you give somebody else pause. So yes, so my ongoing teaching is like that. I teach people one-to-one. I teach a monthly Sunday afternoon. When I teach the Sunday afternoon, I'll usually pick a theme. I'll call it potent breathing, potent musicality, potent resonance. Trying to get a little bit of branding going on here with this potency thing. But next week, from the date that this is going out, there will be a daily class where I'll try and cover enough of the basics and make enough sense that at the end of the week, you've got a voice that you understand it a bit better, you feel a bit more at ease with it, you'll have a little bit more volume perhaps than you automatically have access to. You're starting to understand how you might lengthen your range. You're starting to understand how you might make it sound more beautiful. And you have a good idea of what you're going to be practicing. So that's what my daily potent voice class is going to be about. But that's what my one-to-one work is about. That's what my Sundays are about. And indeed, because the voice is just part of the whole self, I know people are really starting to understand it when they start to be interested in Feldenkrais as a general activity, not just a voice-based activity. Once they get that, then I know that they're beginning to understand that the voice depends on the functioning of very distant areas like the arches of the feet and the pelvic floor and the how well your palate is organised. So all of those things are relevant to the voice, not just noises. Okay, so that's the video for today. It's not quite what I set out to do, but I'm getting there. I'm figuring out this process. Okay, see you again soon. Bye.